Gabe did nothing and won. It's Gabe's world. It is.
I go play games to have fun. These are long-term decisions, and we're always going to be successful. Hi, I'm Gabe Newell. I'm just wandering around your neighborhood.
Hail, Gaben. Lord Gaben could never do us wrong, right? Gabe Newell is the president of Valve, and it's awesome to see this guy just being like the most wholesome president of a company ever. He's very down to earth.
My email's gaben@valvesoftware.com.
Yes, sir.
So I'd love to hear what you like, what you don't like, how we can make it better.
But you do read your emails.
Yeah.
This guy on Reddit didn't have deadlines. So what did he do? He straight up just emailed Gaben asking for a code. And bada bing, bada boom, Gabe was like, here you go.
It keeps you super grounded, right? You know what people are actually thinking, what's actually important to them.
It's crazy just how much Steam keeps winning. So you see all these companies are like, oh, we're gonna go ahead and make our own launcher, we're gonna make our own storefront, but they keep crawling back. Ubisoft here is releasing Assassin's Creed Mirage on Steam, and that doesn't exclude their latest game, you know, everybody's favorite Assassin's Creed. What is this one called? Like Shadows or something? The one in Japan that everybody is mad about. As such, we have made the decision to postpone the release date to February 14th, 2025. The game will release on a broad range of platforms, including Steam at launch. This used to only be launched on Ubisoft Connect, Ubisoft's awesome launcher where you can subscribe to their service, Ubisoft Plus, for all the great games like Star Wars Outlaws and another Assassin's Creed game, or maybe Monopoly. You know, I love Ubisoft. It's funny too, Star Wars Outlaws, one of their latest games, is also coming to Steam on November 21st as far as we can tell, because it just doesn't seem like their platform is getting the popularity that they need to sell copies, and we all know how the state of Ubisoft is at the moment. They're not exactly in a good financial position. We've also seen companies like EA, you know, with Apex Legends or maybe other games. I don't really know what else EA makes. The basketball games and stuff are on Steam as well. So Apex Legends and stuff, eventually it dropped off of the EA launcher, probably because it wasn't getting the response that EA wanted it to. So they moved it to Steam, and it kind of revitalized the game when that happened. You know, Overwatch, everybody's fan favorite game because you can tell by the reviews. You know, this also came to Steam. Maybe this was because Microsoft bought out Blizzard and everything, so they had to do anti-competitive stuff, but this also came to Steam when it was only on Battle.net launcher before. Same story here for Diablo 4. So even though Steam takes a 30% cut of game sales, these companies, just because of the sheer popularity of Steam, put their games on there, or else they're not nearly as successful. Valve, the company, is just really well respected, and they seem to prioritize we, the consumers, actually want. See, like Steam Families just recently launched, and that seems like a really great system in order to share games with your friends and family. Well, it's supposed to be family, but we'll see exactly how that goes. This is just one of the things that makes Steam a really great platform and just a great environment for us to be on PC. There's a reason it's the most popular one out there. Steam is a private company. A lot of these other companies, say like Ubisoft or EA or Microsoft, these are publicly traded companies, and that means that they have to appeal to their stockholders. And we know Steam doesn't need public investment because Steam is just swimming in cash.
We're a very financially very successful company, right?
So let's be honest with ourselves. Steam really does feel like the only option, and that really does lead to a lot of things. It's like, oh, is Steam a monopoly on the platform? And it's not necessarily that they are a monopoly. Other companies, if they were more competitive, we would probably switch over to these other companies, but Steam seems to latch on to most of us, and we seem to really love the platform. You don't own your games. I know, like, you go to the store on Steam and you think it says store and that you would own your games on Steam, but that isn't really even the case. And that is specifically stated here in the Steam subscriber agreement. The content and services are licensed, not sold. Your license confers no title or ownership in the content and services. To make use of the content and services, you must have a Steam account, and you may be required to be running the Steam client and maintaining a connection to the internet. You might be always online and stuff, but you don't own the games. And this can be pretty dangerous. Then when you go to a company, say like Sony with their PlayStation store, Well, you don't really own games there either, and there's a reason why they're pushing away from the DVD drives or disc drives on the PlayStation Pro. I mean, you're paying $700 and you're still not getting a disc drive because they don't want you to own a physical copy of the game because they can get control over you if you don't have access to it like that. Now, on the PC side, we actually do have one option where you do own your games, and that is Good Old Gamer. GOG. GOG is DRM free, which means digital rights management. This doesn't have that. When you buy a game, you genuinely get the game and you can just launch it on your computer. It's like you just get the file and then you own your copy of the game, which is really, really cool. Steam does not have the same type of service. And I want to show you this court case. Okay, so this is a court case coming from Mason LLP, attorneys at law. Actual case is coming from a different one. Is from Wolfire Games or Wolfire Games. I'm not exactly sure. It's a games publisher. And they're claiming that Valve uses its monopoly power to force game publishers to sell their games through the Steam store and pay Valve super competitive commissions. This same conduct causes gamers to pay more for games as well. Game consumers tried to bring a class action, but the court ruled that these claims could only be pursued through individual arbitrations. We're going to get into that in just a second because Steam and Valve is playing a lot of trickery, illegal trickery, to kind of pop down everybody who's trying to fight them on these cases. But first, let's talk about why Valve is being accused of monopolistic behaviors, because a lot of us probably believe is just Steam is the best platform. So there isn't really a reason to go to any of the other ones. Like, most of us own games on Steam because it's just the best. It says, to help maintain its monopoly power, Valve uses what is known as a Platform Most Favored Nations, PMFN, clause in its agreements with game publishers, which prevents game publishers from selling their games on other online gaming sites with lower costs, fees, and or sales commissions for less than the game publishers sell their games on the Steam platform. And how this plays out is if you have your game on Steam, like as a publisher, but you also have it published on other platforms like Epic Game Store or GOG, the cheapest price for that game has to be on Steam. So the other platforms can't be cheaper than the original one. And you've probably also noticed this whenever you're getting games. If you open up Epic Games Launcher, when you also have Steam, you'll notice that typically Epic Games aren't cheaper on there compared to Steam. And what's funny too is the sales on Steam and Epic, not just to be competitive with the platforms, the sales in general are about at the same times on both platforms. It doesn't take a genius to realize like how anti-competitive this can be. The other platforms can't compete on price if the lowest price is always on Steam. And that leads to other things. Other platforms, say like Epic Game Store, they actually take a much lesser cut. I think it's around like 15% or so. It's quite a bit lower than what Steam does. And that makes Epic a pretty big competitor in this space because developers are going to put their games on there because they take less of a hit just by putting on their store. Now, as far as we can tell, we see all the studios still going and putting their games on Steam. So it seems like the popularity of Steam as a platform is worth the cut that the game sales take. But at the same time, 30% is a huge cut out of your games. Now, to us as just actual gamers and consumers, we typically probably don't really care about this unless we were an actual publisher. As long as the game is still cheap on Steam, the 30% cut doesn't affect us directly, or else it doesn't feel like it. So this is one of the cases where, hey, Steam is being anti-competitive, and there is at least a case. Whether or not Valve would win or lose this case, we're not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure this is still going on to this day, but this has arisen quite a few other cases. They are actually representing tens of thousands of gamers with claims against Valve, the owner of Steam. These claims must be pursued in arbitration pursuant to the Steam terms of service. So there's tens of thousands of cases going against Valve because of this. Probably how it affects us personally. So what's interesting is that Steam updated its subscriber agreement. So on September 26th, if you logged into Steam, or really if you've logged in since then, you have to agree to the Steam license or the Steam subscriber agreement. It's kind of like signing a EULA, like how in Black Myth Wukong you just sign your life away to the Chinese government. when you start the game. And at the surface here, if you actually read their post, they've simplified it. A whole bunch of text. It is a huge text wall, but I'm going to go over the important parts for you guys because Steam obviously is going to have their motivations here to try to protect their own asses, and you got to keep that in mind. So we'd like to share some information about the recent updates to the Steam subscriber agreement, which mainly relate to how disputes between Valve and Steam users are resolved. This is actually about these legal cases because this is a huge deal for Valve. Tens of thousands of cases can lead up to tons of legal fees and actually maybe destroy Valve as a company. So they have to be very careful about this, okay? They said that we've eliminated the requirement that disputes be resolved through individual arbitration. I'm gonna repeat this. We've eliminated the requirement that disputes with Valve, be resolved by individual arbitration. Now, I'm not a completely legal guy, so I kind of had to do some research on this as well. Because what is individual arbitration? Steam actually gives us a definition of what arbitration is in their subscriber agreement. Now, this is actually using the Wayback Machine because this is the older license agreement because they did update this and completely change it. This text is pretty much gone. An arbitration is a proceeding before a neutral arbitrator instead of before a judge or a jury. So basically what an arbitration is that you take a court case and you just take it outside of the court. It still has the same rules as a court, but it's kind of done by a third party and not an actual law-abiding justice system. And usually these are cheaper, they're probably faster as well. And it could be more fair for the consumer because, the big companies have a lot more money and they can beat you down with legal fees. In ways, it could be more fair for the consumer or the little guy to fight a bigger company. But arbitration, individual arbitration like this, is actually very favorable for the company. We don't actually have public court documents about the cases if they're done off the books, off the record. It's not like we can reference, Vex versus Valve or something like that. We can't reference that in the future publicly. So it doesn't set a precedent for any wrongdoings that Valve may have done. That's exactly what Steam says here. It says, you understand that you and Valve are giving up the right to sue in court and to have a trial before a judge or jury. So this means that any case has to be taken outside of the court. So it's interesting that the new license agreement or subscriber agreement, we've eliminated the requirement that disputes are being resolved by individual arbitration. They used to force you to do this and you couldn't take them to court, but now you can take them to court. Actually, technically, there could be a class action lawsuit against Valve. This looks like another, classic Steam Gabe Newell W, So why would they do this? As a company, they still want to protect their asses, so this seems kind of confusing. So let's go back over old agreement here. This again is on the Wayback Machine. If you seek $10,000 or less, Valve agrees to promptly reimburse your filing fee and your share of any of AAA's arbitration clause, including arbitrator compensation, unless the arbitrator determines your claims were frivolous or were filed for harassment. So what they're saying is if this costs less than $10,000, Valve will just cover the whole thing. You don't pay a dime. They said that they would pay all the fees. Probably a problem for Valve. We're forced to do arbitration, and if all of the cases are under $10,000, then Valve would have to pay for all of them. It's literally been written into their agreement here, which is why we see companies here, like with Mason LLP, why they're bringing tens of thousands of gamers with claims against Valve, because everything is an arbitration case. Valve is gonna have to pay for everything. Big no. Valve do not want to do that. That is very expensive. And this isn't the only legal team that's coming after this. Valve Corporation versus Zyger LLC. It says Zyger plans to recruit 75,000 clients and threaten Valve with arbitration on behalf of those clients. I don't know how this legal team can manage that many clients, but it's absolutely insane. This is basically a class action lawsuit that isn't actually a class action, and Steam has to pay, or Valve has to pay for the entire thing. To me, this is something that Valve did a complete miscalculation, and we didn't think that many people would do it, and they probably learned a big lesson there, okay? Seemingly, or at least their argument in court, they actually had good intentions with the arbitration clause that, they're supplying people with $10,000 to make a case. So that seems to be the real reason here. that they eliminated the individual arbitration thing is because they couldn't walk back on the whole $10,000 kind of fiasco. What's interesting is that this is done retroactively. What did they replace this with? What can you do now? So what Steam says, at least in this post, is they say, as always, we encourage you to contact Steam support when you have any issues, as that will nearly always be the best way to reach a solution. They do specifically say this in the subscriber agreement that you should reach out to Steam support first. But if that doesn't work, the updated SSA now provides that any disputes are to go forward in court instead of arbitration. So they completely walked it back. We've also removed the class action waiver, as well as the cost and fee shifting provisions that were in prior versions of the SSA. This makes it sound like that this is good for us, but that's actually good for them. They don't have to pay $10,000 anymore. Just keep that in mind. The fee shifting thing, it gets confusing, but yeah, that's good for Steam. This just looks like a common Steam W, just the GOATs, Steam. And I actually really love Steam. I have tons of games there. I like the service overall. They've never really done me wrong. Let's look at the new subscriber agreement and see a massive line in this new agreement here. Your failure to cancel your account prior to the effective date of the amendment will constitute your acceptance of the amended terms. If you still have a Steam account, then you're agreeing to these new rules. Then it says, if you don't agree to the amendments or to any of the terms of this agreement, your only remedy is to cancel your account or cease use of the affected subscriptions, which is actually your games, okay? These are the licenses for your games. If you want to take legal action on Valve, say goodbye to your Steam account. All your games collected over the years, gone. You can't be an active subscriber while also going against Valve. And this really ties back into the whole game ownership thing. Steam is holding your entire game library over your head because they have control, because they have leverage. And I think a lot of those court cases that are going out there or the arbitration are just going to be fizzled out because so many people aren't going to give up their Steam account to do a case. Now, me personally, again, I haven't really had a bad experience with Steam. Honestly, prices seem fine to me, and Steam as a platform is just awesome in total. I really wouldn't want to go anywhere else. But having your game library not owned is definitely a very scary thing. You don't know where that's going to lead into the future. And it is also interesting here. So let's go back to this page. Say you did want to, cancel your account and go after Steam or Valve in court now, because now you can't do it through arbitration. This is what they say. You can cancel your account at any time. You may cease use of a subscription at any time, or if you choose, you may request that Valve terminate your access to a subscription. However, subscriptions are not transferable. And even if your access to a subscription for a particular game or application is terminated, the original activation key will not be able to be registered to another account, even if the subscription was obtained in a retail store. Your cancellation of an account or your cessation of use of any subscription or request that access to a subscription may be terminated will not entitle you to any refund, including of any subscription fees. Valve reserves the right to collect fees, surcharges, or costs incurred prior to the cancellation of your account or termination of your access to a particular subscription. In addition, you're responsible for any charges incurred to a third-party vendor or content providers before your cancellation. Basically, a whole lot of words there. But if you want to cancel your account, everything is gone. If you want to go for Valve, no matter what, everything is gone. You can't move games to another account. Those are linked to yours solely. Yeah, if you want to cancel, if you want to go for Steam, you own nothing. Everything is gone forever. It really puts the stakes into high gear here. And I think that's why they don't allow us to own games. And let me know if you have more ideas on this, because from a company perspective, other than banning people for whatever reason, I don't know why they'd really want to own our games unless they want to have that leverage over us to take them away at some point in the future. And we've invested a lot into these things, and our libraries definitely matter. I probably have maybe a couple thousand in games. Probably lose all your saves and your progress and everything. That's a lot of time. The problem with this whole situation, Valve as a company, because I think a lot of us, we don't really mind Steam.
I've had Steam for how many years, right? And it's been a great service the whole time. I'm a big fan.
Like, Steam can have a lot of control over the industry, but we don't really care because Steam is a great service. I've made a much more in-depth video on this if you want to check it out above, like why we really stick to Steam. Court case got posted on here. Valve's corpse Steam platform monopolized game sales, suit says. This is a lawsuit, or it doesn't actually say lawsuit. The reason Steam is so popular and so widespread, they have a monopoly case over the industry, even though there is competition, is because Steam created the digital games marketplace in the first place. It was around the time when Counter-Strike 1.5 was about to get the 1.6 update, and everybody got pissed that he required Steam to play it. That was 18 years ago, so there's plenty of time for competitors to step in. The value of Steam as a platform to its users is already through the roof, and it only grows when there is no other storefront that comes close to its merits. So Steam as a platform is just really, really popular and really well loved. All hail Lord Gaben. Right now, Steam is great, but it doesn't really tell what's going to happen in the future for Steam. What if Gabe just flips the switch? What if he goes crazy?
We're not adding no animated skins to Counter-Strike 2. That takes away from the aesthetic. We don't need the animated effects where you have a dragon come and reload for you. Fucking gay-ass fairy bullshit.
And starts taking it out on us. You know, the only thing right now that I think keeps Valve pretty grounded is that Gabe is a great president. He seems to be very down to earth and understands the audience that actually plays on Steam. But what if somebody else takes a huge role in the leadership position and is leading the company? Like, there's a new ship captain and they don't have the same types of ideas as Gabe. One of the great things is it is a private company. I don't think they need to go public because they make so much money.
Valve is a literal money printing machine.
Oh yeah.
You know, if this company ever went public, would it look very different? And I'm hoping that if leadership ever does change, because Gabe Newell is getting pretty old now. I don't know when he would be retiring, but I hope that they would put in leadership that has the same types of ideas as Gabe does. It's not just Gabe making all the decisions, but you know, he's a great role model for how the actual company behaves. Valve just kind of puts their head down and just works on stuff, and they just keep winning. You've seen all these companies that keep crawling back to Valve. Hopefully it keeps up like that. But these legal situations for the company are kind of scary. A lot of this was informed to me personally by Bellular News, hard to say. Their video is also gonna be in the description of mine, but it really opened my eyes to this, and I want to do some research and dig a little bit deeper, and hopefully I can bring some light to the situation on you guys as well. Just be aware you're buying games. Really, if you want to own your games, the only other option is good old gamer. We don't have physical copies anymore, so that's been it for me. I'm gonna see you guys in the next video. Y'all have a good one. Peace.